Wagwan my G's. My name is Kyokai, and I wanted to make a tier list video today for the XY block format. Now, XY block is a format I adore. I own multiple decks in real life of it. I think people give it a bad rap for what it is. It's chaotic, it's powerful, but overall it's pretty fun. And I've loaded up about 30 decks today, and I wanted to kind of put them on a tier list just to see what you'd expect if you go to a tournament, what things are strong between friend matches, and if you're playing on things like TCG 1, what you'd generally expect. So we're just going to go in kind of the order it's given me. And yeah, so we'll start off with Vileplume Vespiquen. This is an aggressive deck that really abuses Forest Giant Plants. And turn 1, you want to get out Vileplume, stuff items, and then your Vespiquen will get stronger as a one prizer for each Pokemon in your discard pile. Now this will obviously rise in time. You got unknowns. Your spare Pokemon will just give you more and more compounding damage. And yes, it isn't the strongest stack in the world, but it's a one prizer. You're exploding out the gate, you're hitting really hard. It's kind of what you want in a fast one prizer deck. I'm going to put it tentatively in strong. It's a deck that can be really blown out by Seismitoad, but at the same time, you get to go first, you get to set up a Vileplume and multiple Vespiquen potentially, multiple Vileplume even. The one issue is things like Floatstone gets knocked out by your own Vileplume, so you need to make sure you always have a Floatstone and a Vileplume. But then again, Grenade Hammer plus a Muscle Band plus the last Boss's Orders, or Lysander at this point, is going to kind of knock you out. Tentatively, probably go at the bottom of strong. I think it's definitely a deck to look out for. It's quite a cheap deck as well if you want to build it in real life. Next, we have Darkrai Giratina, or Darkrai Dragons. So this is a deck that has Darkrai X, which does more damage for each Darkness energy attached to each of your Pokemon. Now you get Max Elixir, you get Darkrai, you get your Veltol to accelerate Dark, but at the same time you also get Salamence EX and Giratina EX, both of which use Double Dragon Energy. Now Double Dragon Energy, when attached to a dragon, also acts as 2 Dark Energy. So you're hitting for 80 to 160 damage turn 1 or 2 quite often. And that can knock out a lot of stuff, especially if you're hitting early. It's not the strongest deck in the game, it's very much up there. I would say it's probably stronger than Vespiquen Vileplume. I think Vespiplume's a bit more fragile. This can obviously lean on the fact that it's 2, basic EXs. It's almost all completely basic EXs and just basic Pokemon. So you hit fast, you got max elixirs, you've got a lot of consistency pieces. Yeah, you get the Stadium, which makes your Dark Pokemon do 10 more damage. Kind of fixes the maths into some 170 or 190 Pokemon. Yeah, next we've got Despair and Mega Gardevoir, one of my personal favourite decks of all time. You get 2 types, which is part of why it's so good. You can use Parallel City, you can use Skyfield to do more damage, you can use Dimension Valley, I think it is, to attack for 1 Fairy Energy, so you can run like 6 energy now. You can have Max Potions, because you attack for 1 energy. You can run the Mega Turbo to recover that. And you have more game nowadays, because you're not cutting off evolutions. Evolution gives us Dragonite EX. It means your recovery is a lot stronger now. And you also like Lysander's trump card being legal. So you kind of cap out 170, maybe 190. You can run Muscle Band, gets you push even more damage thresholds. Generally you're taking 2 hit KOs, but you have a toolbox of things to use. Some of the Gardevoirs are decent. You can quite often hit for 20 on the first turn and then hit for another 150 on the next. It's not bad. I'd say it's definitely decent. It's probably at the top of decent, maybe the lowest of strong. It does struggle with being a Mega Pokemon. Also, that does require you to have specific pieces. You'll kind of hurt a lot by Seismitoad. And things like Garbotoxin absolutely ruin you. So facing a Garbotoxin matchup, if they can set it up, sort of go second turn, you're going to really struggle with recovery. Of course, the Garbodor decks aren't too fast. Some are really fast, but You know, it's just a good deck. You wouldn't be faulted for playing with it, but you've got to be a good player to do well with it. The other side of the Gardevoir EX is the Fairy Box one, where you run the Brilliant Arrow, does more damage for each fairy energy attached, and you get to run the Aromatisse to shuffle the energies around, you get to run Xerneas with Geomancy to accelerate 2 from the deck. It's a consistent deck. It gets better in Primal Crash to Guardians Rising. In XY block, it's fine. I would say it's a very basic deck. You know, early players, new players are not going to do too badly with it. You can choose a few free wins if people stumble. You know, Seismitoad is kind of just item locking you over and over. It's not a huge deal. You just sit on Geomancy's Xerneas, it'll die in 4 turns, but you've also accelerated 8 energy. And they'll only need the Muscle Band in addition. We don't have Hypnotoxic Laser in this format. Thank God. So yeah, I'd say it's bottom of decent. It's definitely below the other Gardevoir. It's got a higher damage threshold, but the other Gardevoir is just more aggressive. You get to run Absol, and you get to run Rattata and Hawlucha over and over. You get to recycle them. I'd say it's a stronger deck. They're both fine. Next we have Seismitoad Garb. This is certainly one of the better decks. It's pretty much the definition of the modern control deck in this format. You've got a few other Seismitoad decks, and they're all pretty diabolical. We'll probably do them all at the same time now. But Seismitoad Garb leans on the fact that you get to run Garbotoxin, shut off all abilities, and you get to run off all items. That's pretty disgusting. You can turn off Shamans. You know, you can turn off like Turbo things and Night March. This thing basically can't lose the Night March unless you have one of the worst starts of all time. And yeah, you need things like Float Stones or Fighting Fury Belts to kind of enable the Garbotoxin, but at the same time, you can run like 6 of them. You get to run Sycamore, Ends. You can run things like Faded Town to compound even more damage up. I'd say it's a pretty strong deck. I'd definitely put it at the top of strong. A lot of the Seismitoad decks are definitely at the top of strong, if not in the best decks. They are ridiculously powerful. So we'll go over the Seismitoad decks next. We'll do Seismitoad Tina, or Tina Toad as it's called. I'd say it's probably below Darkrai Dragons, but in front of Vespiquen. You cover a lot of bases. I think it's got less of a control aspect and more of a tempo one. You kind of item lock until you can transition into Giratina, which is immune to mega damage, which is, you know, useful. You get to run double Dragon Energy along with double Colourless Energy. That fulfills the whole cost for Giratina, and obviously Toad only really uses double Colourless Energies. And Giratina has Chaos Wheel. You do 100 damage. That's 2-shotting most things, especially with the Fighting Fury Belt. You turn off Tools, Special Energy, and Stadiums being played the next turn for the opponent. So that can really, really pressure the opponent, especially with things like Parallel City. You can run Faded Town in this deck as well. Giratina's immune to Megas, like I said. So I think Dark Tina's faster. I think that's more important. It wouldn't be the first Toad deck I choose, but you really couldn't be faulted for playing it if you'd like that sort of big basics style deck. This is probably one of the best ones for you. We'll do Toad Daunt. This is one of the best decks. It's a energy denial deck similar to Toad Puff, which we'll come to next, where you get to item lock in Crawdaunt, can remove energies. You can really lean on the energy denial fact. You get to play Crushing Hammers, Enhanced Hammers, let them just trump card to redo them all. And you just put as much pressure on the items as possible. And yes, you can just stop Professor's Lettering. Think decks that are quite lean on energy, like Mega Gardevoir, can quite struggle, especially if they're being denied Mega Turbo. Versus decks like Mega Rayquaza, yes, it's an amazing deck, but you keep putting the double colours energies back, they're going to struggle with playing it. And they're one of the faster decks, and it's not a great matchup for you, but it's very winnable. I think some of the only decks that really beat this consistently are decks that will attack for 1 energy quite often. Things like Volcanion can do very well from Blacksmith. Things like Alakazam can do very well, but that's also not the highest tiers. Obviously Sceptile you kind of just lose to, but them's the breaks. I'd say it's definitely one of the better decks. And I think it's probably the best Toad deck. I think it's just got the consistency that's so needed with those kind of decks. And we'll do lastly Toad Puff. I'd say Toepuff's definitely up there as well. It probably could be here. Yeah, we'll tentatively put it here. I think it would definitely be in the best decks later on, though. It's similar to Crawdon, but you lean very heavily on Crushing Hammers, and a lot of things like Red Card. You draw 1 to 2 cards every turn per Slurpuff with its ability. Draw 1, if it's in the active, draw 2. It's just Goldengo, basically. And you obviously get the item lock from Seismitoad. It's strong. It's powerful. It's not completely debilitating in the same way that Crawdaunt is, where it can remove, tons of energies every turn. You get to Devolution Spray the Crawdaunt. It's vile, but Slurpuff isn't bad at all. It's certainly got its matchups. It's got a pretty more consistent matchup spread than these other two. I think it's strong. If you like drawing cards and just looping everything, that's kind of what this format's for. But yeah, let's go to the next one. We got the Garchomp. I'd say it's mediocre. The deck is cool. You lean heavily on strong energies, muscle bands, fighting Fury Belts. Well, not really fighting Fury Belt, that's more for the Holucha. But you get to compound damage. It does 60 for 1 new attached energies when you're Pokemon, and then for 2 energy you can do 80, and 80 more if it's an EX. You add a muscle band and a strong energy, or a strong energy and fighting stadium. You're doing enough to kill most EXs. With all 3, you're really nearing a lot of the Mega Pokemon, and you're trading up very well. This is all well and good, but you need lots of pieces, especially as a 2-stager. You don't run on Carbink, because you'd rather be more aggressive with your attacks. I think the deck is cute, but you require a lot of pieces in a format where it's not going to be super hospitable to that. And yeah, you can beat a lot of Crushing Hammers, but rebuying everything is fine. You can stop your setup with, let's say, there's Trump card being played against you, you can slow yourself down, and things like Enhanced Hammer really hurt you. You haven't got a great way to get those energies back. You have its first attack with 60, but you also want to be attaching special energies from hand as well. It's fine. It's probably okay and decent, but I think it's probably mediocre, all things considered. Maybe right at the bottom of decent. Next we've got Glalie. This is one of my favourite decks of all time. I would be definitely lower end of mediocre. It's a deck that really struggles if your opponent knows what they're doing against you. If your opponent's remotely aware of what Glalie does, you're going to lose. You shut off abilities of Garbodor to kind of put pressure on. Glalie has... You've run Shrine of Memories as well, and you also want to run Team Magma's Secret Base, because Glalie does 250 damage for 3 energy, which is ridiculous, but you need 10 damage counters on you, and that's pretty good versus Seismitoad. Things like Mega Rayquaza will just one-shot you, and things like Mewtwo will one-shot you, or try to. Volcanion's quite good against you, you're also good against that, but versus any infinite damage scaling decks, you're probably screwed. Versus any decks that kind of have to play around the Garbodor and the Glalie, you can really tighten your handcuffs on them, really make them play into you, and you can hit for ridiculous damage. I think the deck is solidly mediocre. It's a deck I will continue working on, because I love it to pieces, but I wouldn't put any higher than that. Next we've got Greninja Break. This is a stellar deck. It's a tempo deck that leverages Giant Water Shuriken and Mist Slashing, which turns off all abilities for your opponent during their next turn from their hand, discard, and in play. That's ridiculous, and you get Frogadier to place like 3 other Frogadiers if you've got them in deck onto your bench. That means that you're pushing even further. You can run things like Wally in order to get even faster. So it's definitely a deck that really incentivizes you to play well. You get to have a board of 1 prizes, you get to run Talonflame, you don't have to start Froggy quite often. That surges you 2 cards, more consistently find energy plus Frogadier, and that gets your Greninjas. Greninja Break lets you put water energy around your board, discard water energy, and then put damage on your opponent's board. And it's just a very consistent deck. It's definitely top of strong, if not one of the best decks. I'd say it's below Crawdaunt. Crawdaunt is very good against Crawdaunt, because Crawdaunt just puts your energy back, but versus Crushing Hammers, you need to draw for multiple Fishermen, because you can get shut out from playing energy retrieval. I think it's definitely a very powerful deck. You have both pretty strong matchups, but of course, things like spread damage will hurt a lot. You're good against Night March. You can beat things like Rainbow Road versus Walls. But then again, you also will lose things like Trevenant quite often versus Yanmega, things that can almost out-resource you. Actually, I'd probably put it in front of Crawdaunt. I think it's actually just the more better matchup spread deck. It doesn't boast too many awful matchups. You'll still lose to a lot of spread damage, but there really isn't all that much spread damage in this format. There's obviously Ordino, but that's Ordino. Next we've got Gyarados. I'd say this is probably also mediocre. I'd probably put it above Garbaglalia. Actually, I'm going to put Garchomp here. I think it deserves it. I think just the fact that you can do so much damage for so low energy, I think it's worth it. Anyway, Garchomp. For retaliation, you do more damage for each Magikarp that's damaged and avenged. Now that's going to set up, but we have Risky Ruins in this format of Team Magma's secret base. You just put your Magikarps down, pray your opponent doesn't do spread damage, and then play Gyarados, always get them mixed up, with a double colourless energy, do a bunch of damage. It's cute, I wouldn't say it's incredible. It's certainly fun if you like one prizes. It's quite reminiscent of the Gyarados from Stormfront, which has, I think, is it for retaliation? Terror Revenge, that's the one. Where you get to do more damage for each Magikarp in your discard pile. That's easier to set up. It also has 0 energy. This is a notable downgrade. You do have the ancient trait where you get multiple tools on the Pokemon, so you can have multiple muscle bands. You know, that can kind of help. You can have assault vests. They're good. It's cute, but it doesn't really boast that many great matchup spreads. It's really weak to any sort of bench damage, and a lot of energy discard will harm you. Night March. I would say this is solidly the best deck. It's pretty hard to argue that Night March is not the most defined deck in this format. Even with Lysander's Trump card, which Night March will quite often play as well, you can just keep dumping your resources. If you're smart, you'll save Presser's Research or a Shaman to kind of push it. Even if you stuff shuffle back, draw into more battle compressors, dump stuff again, play it out. You're lean, you're powerful. If they discard your energy, you're still taking a 2-for-1. Things like Crawdaunt are pretty decent against you. Seismitoad is kind of your bane, but at the same time, you can still just one-shot a Seismitoad if you go fast enough. You force your opponent to play Alessandra's Trump card early on, and that's taking them off of their supporters like N or Presser's Research. I think it's just solidly the best deck. If you want to taste this format and the chaos and the real insanity of this format, try Night March out. I'm pretty partial to Night March with Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick. It lets you put in the Marowak, which protects you and your hand from your opponent's attacks. Say you beat Seismitoad, and you can draw more cards. You set up your first battle compressor. It's very fun. You can build it a bunch of ways. It's just cool. It's just a sick deck. It's definitely the best deck in the format. Mega Alakazam, I'd say it's probably top of mediocre. You get to rebuy your Alakazam EXs with the Evolution Spray. When you Mega Evolve, you get to place a bunch of damage around, which is powerful. Then Zen Force is a Meditate attack. You do more damage for each damage counter on the opponent's active Pokemon. That's cool. Dimension Value lets you attack for 1. It's very lean. You're very piece dependent, and you're very dependent on not having your items locked out. You only play it and Wobbuffet. And yes, Wobbuffet knocks out abilities. It's quite stally when it wants to be, but I still think it just gets absolutely ruined by a lot of Seismitoads. And you don't really want to play stuff like Mega Turbo, because that makes you even more played into it. You'd rather just attack for 1 energy each turn. I think it's fun. It's definitely fun as hell. You can really, absolutely ruin Night March. You just keep killing their active Joltix or their Pumpkaboos and just combo. But Ninja Break harms you quite a bit. They shut off your abilities, so you just hitting for 10 and 10 plus 10 each turn. Yeah, it's fine. Mega Man Netric. This is a toolbox deck where you use the base Manectric to kind of set up damage modifiers, where you do 20 plus 20. You then get to do extra damage if your opponents have tool cards. You run Headringer on the opponent's Pokemon, now they got a tool on there. The Thunderbolt attaches 2 energy cards in your discard. You normally play things like Ho-Oh, but you can also just play a variety of good attackers, like Xerneas EX, Yveltal if you'd like to, with things like random dark energies. You can run Rainbow Energy as well. Ho-Oh is pretty much the best one of these, but Sky's Limit with Meownetric. It's a tricky deck to rank because it's got some pretty strong matchups. You can really hurt Joltik, or Night March even. You can really hurt Greninja, but then at the same time you kind of get really pressured by a lot of, Toad decks. You get pressured by a lot of the Megas. It's good. I think it's definitely indecent. I'd be hard pressed to put it lower. I think it can definitely go in here. You've got Mega Ordner next. The 2016 Worlds winning deck. It's a little worse in this format. It was good then because we didn't have evolutions, which is a more impactful set than people want to admit. And it came out of nowhere. You get to do 110, then 50 to the bench if you play the supporter. You play a lot of Hex Maniacs. Everyone's playing supporters. You can play random one-offs. I like this deck. It's very consistent. It's very clean. That doesn't particularly do anything unfair. It's just quick, consistent damage. You two-shot a lot of the Megas. You get to do very high damage. You get to play stuff like Magearna to protect you because you're colourless. I think it's fun. I think it's just a generally very fun deck. I would probably put it top of decent. I think it's above Gardevoir. You just have more consistency. You're not as locked out from Seismitoad. You just have a lot of pressure. You still get obliterated by things like Vespiquen, as long as they can't. If you stop them setting up with Vespiquen, you just crush them. A lot of things like Toad, Tina will hurt you. Darkrai Tina will hurt you. Then you have Bronzong with Metalings, which is the kind of thing that's built around Metal Blocks. You run Genesect, Aegislash, Cobalion, these sort of one or two of attackers that can discard Metal Energy, can do more damage for each prize card. It's very consistent. You really lead on Battle Compressor, so obviously Tina and Toad aren't amazing. You really rely on your abilities, so Garbodor decks will hurt you. And you play around Crawdaunt pretty well, but it's what it is. I think the deck's definitely got legs. I put it in strong. I think it's a one prizer, which is nice, but then you also have to run two prizes to make the deck really function well. And Vespiquen's still powerful as ever. A lot of item locks are going to kind of hurt your setup if you can't rock it out the gate. And yeah, I think it's solidly there. I'd say it's probably on the same level as Ordino, but I think it's just slightly got the edge out. The Mewtwo Garbodor deck with Psychic Infinity, you do more damage for each energy attached to you. You get to run Shine of Memories to switch over damage from you to your opponent's active, and there's yours. So this can do some pretty powerful stuff. Where it needs it is a lot of setup. You need a lot of setup for this deck. And sure, you get to run Garbodor to kind of hinder setup, but if they can stop you playing the stadium, you're going to just do some good damage rather than damage change as much. If they can discard your energies a lot each turn, things like Slurpuff or Crawdaunt, you're also going to struggle. Yes, you can put them back with the Mega Turbo, but you also kind of don't want to. You'd also get beaten by Toad at that point, but you'd also like to just completely consistently keep it on, pressure the opponent more. I'd say it's just a worse version of a lot of aggressive Toad decks, like Tina Toad or Toadpuff. In a way, it's aggressive. I'd say it's probably mediocre. I'd say above Alakazam. It's got legs, but I wouldn't say it's the tournament unless you're really enjoying the deck. You'd need to love this deck to take it, because otherwise you're going to get ran over by Night March, because you just trade so unfavourably with a lot of their stuff. Greninja's going to really hurt you, because they can kind of play around the Garbodor, and it is what it is. They pressure you a lot. The Crawdaunt and Seismitoad are just going to hurt. We got the Mega Lucario. This deck's fine. You have a lot of early attacks with the basic EX. You can draw a lot of cards. Rising Fist for 3 energy does 140. You discard an energy attached to the opponent's active Pokemon. That's good. That's very good. But at the same time, a lot of these decks are quite lean. And yeah, you're discarding energy, but they're also probably going to discard energy from you. And you also don't want to turbo into this. You also want to run Shrine of Memories for your previous attacks for draw cards. You also would like to run Fighting Stadium for more damage. and you want to run Muscle Band for more damage, because 140 really isn't all that much. But yeah, you can two-shot a lot of things, but for a deck that's as aggressive as Lucario, you also want to run Regirox probably, or yeah, I just this deck, it can't decide where it wants to be. If this was just a basic Pokemon, it'd be, I think, a bit stronger. You'd get like Max Elixir. You get run with Mega Turbo, and you'll still hurt a lot from 3 energy attack of only fighting. Yeah, you get strong energy, but then special energy also hinders you in this format as well as helps you. I'd say it's a mediocre. I'd probably put it below Alakazam, maybe below Gyarados. I think below Gyarados, honestly. I think Gyarados is just stronger from being one prize, but these two just do it better. Next we've got Mega Ray. This is one of the top tier decks. You have a horrendous matchup versus Night March, but you absolutely brutalise a lot of the slower 2 prize decks. You just hit for 30 times the number of your bench Pokemon. That's ridiculous. You get Omega Evolution. You get to evolve on the same turn. Obviously, Spirit Link doesn't end your turn. It's a DCE and a Mega Turbo attached. You get to run the Shamans, the Hoopers of Skyfield, Dragonites if you want them. You can run a lot of different basic energy adjustments in the deck to make you have certain splash attackers. So Electric gives you Jolteon, or the Water would give you both Toad if you wanted it, and Glaceon. You could also run the Metal for Magearna. It's a very versatile deck. I think it's not unexplored, but you can definitely run a lot of different ways. And I think we haven't seen all those ways yet, because it's definitely a very solid choice. It's a very expensive deck to run in real life, but if it's a TCG 1 or whatever, play if you like. If you like very big Pokemon that do a lot of damage, it's the game for you. But you're going to need to know how to beat Night March. And your attacker should complement that. So Jolteon's normally quite a good choice versus Night March. And I think it's just a very solid deck to try. I highly recommend it. Next we have Sceptile. Sceptile is the absolute best Cybertoad foil. You're immune to your opponent's abilities from your Ancient trait. You get to heal all damage while attaching energy to beat your items that beat the energy. You also get to beat Crawdon that way. You just do so much. And you can run it a couple of different ways. You can run the Forest Giant Plants of Ariados with the one from Ancient Origins, I believe, that lets you do more damage if your opponent's got a special condition. Or you can run the Agility one, which is just 4 and 4 of the Sceptile line. And you can just do so much damage so quickly for essentially sometimes 0 energy, because you're attaching them for free from hand. And yeah, it's a really consistent deck. It's quite an easy deck as well. You just switch out, you add them back with Fisherman. Yeah, it's so good. The deck is awesome. I think it's a really strong choice. I would very likely put it, I'd say here almost. I think the deck is incredible versus Toad decks, you're going to see a lot of. It's very good versus Night March, because although they can hit fast, you've also got access to Lathanos trump cards to try and beat them. Greninja can't really do as much damage to you as needed. Yeah, I think it's just a very, very powerful deck. That's a good anti-meta choice. And, if you like it's another sort of quote-unquote big basic deck, you just run 4 and 4 of each. That's all you run. It's very powerful. A few different ways you can run it. Yeah, I like it. Next we've got Mega Sizzle Garbodor. Now, Mega Sizzle gets to do 120, and you can discard a special energy or a stadium play. Now that's good. Versus DCs, of course. 120 isn't amazing. You get to run Magearna, which is nice. The base form Scizor is fine. The deck is cool. You can run, obviously, Garbodor, and that's nice. But it's another Garb deck that leans so heavily on Garbodor, things like Mega Mewtwo, because that's kind of all you can do, because your output isn't so powerful. You have okay stats. Metal's an okay type to have. It's okay, You're not going to write home about running it, but you're also not going to be ashamed to run it. I would definitely say it's just below Brilliant Arrow. It's better than Garchomp. I think it's just got more game versus a lot of stuff. You can catch things that are running the Spirit Links quite off. You can kind of melt things like Garchomp that are running strong energies. That's the most common one of the format. Versus Trevenant, you can take their Mystery Energy, which helps you retreat. Yeah, it's a nice card, but it needs the right meta game. You kind of have to read it. A lot of DC has to be present, and things like Night March don't care because you're just going to kill them in one shot. And a lot of Toad decks will just replay it. They'll draw enough cards to see another one. Next, we've got Vialbox. This is Vileplume with individual cards that can boast good attacks. So things like Aegislash, which is imbued to special energies. Things like the Jolteon, which can lock out basic attacks. Things that, like the Glaceon, that can lock out evolution attacks. Just good one-off Pokemon, along with an item lock that can really slow down the pace of the game and make your opponent have to play on your terms. It's not as good as Vesperplume. I don't think it's the best Vileplume deck. I think that's definitely Vesperplume. But at the same time, it's not to be counted out. You know, you definitely can steal some games with it, but it's a lot less consistent. You haven't got as good energy acceleration, you've just got kind of fine attackers that are very specific. I'd say it's in bottom of decent, probably above Scizor. I think Scizor needs more justification. You can definitely do a lot of stuff with it, but these just do it so much more consistently. And you can't run a one prize game like Vespiquen. Yeah, it is probably one of the boogeymans of the format, I'd say. Primal Groudon. This deck is torture to play against, and that's, you know, in the format of Seismitoad and Crawdaunt and Crushing Hammers, this deck is very torturous to play against. You have a barrier which lets you not be affected by trainers. So boss's orders can't really work on you. Obviously there's still Escape Rope, but not many decks run Escape Rope because of Seismitoad is transit in your hand. So you do 100 damage for 4 energy. Discard a Stadium and play. Mandatory. You do 100 more damage. That's good. You have Fighting Stadium, your Silent Lab to threaten the opponent. You have your Strong Energies that can do more damage. But, you know, you're leaning very heavily on it. If your opponent manages to Lysander up a base Groudon, sort of turn 2, you're going to struggle again. It's hard to get them out the active spot because you sometimes want to run Spirit Links, you probably don't. You could also just run things like Muscle Band, Hard Charm, things like the Focus Sash as well is quite useful versus Night March. It's fine. It's very much a stall deck. It's very reminiscent of the current expanded stall decks. And I think it's a deck you can bring. Everyone will hate you if you bring it, but you can definitely bring it. I think it's just below Vespiquen. I think it boasts enough of a game plan where you can sit behind a Wobbuffet and just sit on this massive beast of a Pokemon and then really just say, answer this. But it's also just not anything fancy, it's just sitting there and a lot of disruption will hurt you. We've got Rainbow Force. This deck's Rainbow Road, it's awesome. In, I think it was Steam Siege we got them. We got a bunch of dual type Pokemon, like with the Gardevoir, the Volcanion, and a lot of one prizes that can do it. So Bishop, Galvantula, they let you have a one prizer board, which with a Fairy Energy and DCE, you get to do 10 plus 30 more for each different type you've got on your bench. So you put a Volcanion, a Bishop, and a Galvantula, you're doing 220. Yeah, 190 even, plus a Muscle Band, sure. For, you know, 2 energy, realistically, with just a Fairy and DCE. That's pretty diabolical. You are at risk, because a lot of stuff one-shot, very easily. And you can't really attack with half of these, all of them have got, like, mediocre to okay, like, attacks you can kind of run, but they're not very good. They sometimes fix some maths and hit some weaknesses, but it's good. It's a good deck. It's a one prizer deck that can pressure stuff. I'd say it's just behind Vespiquen again. I think you can do the same one prizer thing, but the item lock's just so good, and you do a better one prize game than Bronzong, along with better damage scaling. This is Walls. Walls is okay. The problem with Walls is there's so many one prizer decks in this format that people will bring. At the same time, there's also a lot of two prizer decks that people will bring. So things like Mega Ray and Tina Toad and Sceptile. Well, not Sceptile because I don't really care, but Primal Groudon, I guess. And Gardevoir, they kind of block those, but you also got Greninja, Night March, the Sceptile deck, Vespiquen, Vileplume, Rainbow Road. You can kind of a Bronzong, because you can get it for 60 each time. You've got the Garchomp deck. You've got like the Trevenant deck, which is also really good. So yeah, it's just pretty good. It's like I wouldn't want to run it because you just could run things better like with Primal Groudon. There's better ways to block things out. I'd say it's mediocre. I think you just kind of don't want to do much with it. It's not a format for walls. If you want to run it, it's like helmet mode on. You kind of just sit there with your helmet on and you kind of pray your opponent doesn't bring a one prizer deck in a format with probably the best two decks of one prizers. But it's fine. There is Ray. So Reshiram can accelerate energy and Rayquaza for a lot of energy. Hits for 300. 300 kills everything, but like you don't really need 300. 220 or 240 is kind of where everything maxes out. It's overkill. And you eat a lot of energy for it, you need a lot of setup, you get double dragon energy, you get access to things like Tyrantrum, or the Salamence, or Tina. Cool, it's fine, it's whatever. I probably wouldn't take it to an event. I think it's probably bad, to be honest with you. You could trade this for Salamence, and it's probably just still as okay. Yeah, in fact, I'll probably put these in bad as well. I can't even see them being mediocre. I think Lucario is possibly even worse than this is, because you just run so much Lucario. And yeah, it's what it is. Trevenant with Break. It's so diabolical. You get an active Pokemon that can either ability lock all non-psychics, or you lock out all items. That's pretty disgusting. The Break lets you spread 3 damage counters around your opponent's board on each Pokemon they have for 1 energy with Dimension Valley. Otherwise you do 60 and then like spread some more damage. It's pretty strong. Like, this is one of the better one prize decks in the format. You get access to Wallies, get the dreaded Turn 1 Trevenant. Your starter of Phantump lets you, attack going second if you want to, and then Ascension to the Trevenant. You're always going to get that item lock, or you're going to get an ability lock if it's stronger versus things like Mega Ray. This is a really very much one of the best decks. I'd say it's just below Mega Ray. You kind of lean too heavily on the item lock, but you do it better than Vespiquen does. It's just a deck that's very lean. You only need 1 energy to attack with. You can really pressure a lot of the decks that need to hit you fast, but they can't. And you've got a stellar Night March matchup. You can take 2 or 3 prizes over like 2 turns extremely easily with your Silent Fear. You wipe Pumpkaboos in 2 turns, Joltix in 1 turn. You can kill Shamans quite fast with a Tree Slam and a couple of Silent Fears to kind of mop up everything. It's such a good matchup versus that. Versus a Greninja, it's sort of a match of who gets to be the best one prizer deck. Obviously, Mist-Slashing kind of cuts off, but doesn't really matter. You spread a bunch of damage around if they can out-damage you faster. Is what it is. And then Crawdaunt Toad is fine against you. You got a good Crawdaunt Toad matchup. Mega Ray can go way over you, but you can also just shut them out of being fast, and the rest are fine. For Canyon, this is another helmet deck. You just discard a bunch of fire energy, reattach them with Blacksmith, and then do a ton of damage. You get your Baby Volcanion to attach more energy. I think this is probably up here. It's a basic deck. It's the definition of just Sceptile, but stronger. In my opinion, you're a more aggressive Sceptile. When Sceptile's defensive, this deck really hits hard. You're taking KOs from probably the first turn of the game, and you're just consistently doing that. You can change your attack to how much damage you need. 130 isn't a huge amount, correct, but that can be modified. Discard 3 fire energies. That's now 220. You're knocking out most megas, and you get to reattach them on Blacksmith. It's just a great engine circling around, very, very powerful. Max Elixir is your friend. You just power up a 3 energy attack almost instantaneously. It's amazing. And you hit 0 11 weaknesses for Water and Fire, which is just cool. Then we have Xerneas Dragons. This deck is not very good. I think it's the bottom of mediocre. Xerneas Break does more damage times the number of Fairy energy attached. The difference is Darkrai was good because you got to do it on a basic. This is a break, which, yeah, it's a basic break, but it's still a break. And you're in Tina, Tyrantrum, and the Salamence to kind of do more with the double drag energy. You get max elixirs, all that sort of stuff. It's fine. The infinite damage scaling is powerful. Actually, I'd probably put it on mediocre. It's a deck that can out-damage a lot of stuff, but it takes a lot of setup, which a lot of these decks are like, to be fair. This is just the placeholder, the one it's there, but it's there. This is your Mega Break with Vileplume and Vespiquen, I believe. You get to ignore the attack cost if you've got the same number of cards in your hand as the opponent. It's not impossible to do in this format. People operate on quite thin margins, so it's very easy. You get to do 100 damage, bypass all effects, which is good. You obviously have Vespiquen if you want it. You can run Vileplume to lock out items, your Forest of Giant Plants to hit ridiculously hard, very, very quickly. And yeah, it's just a consistent deck that has probably some legs. You still get to run Vileplume. You get to maintain a one prize board. I think it's a worse Vileplume because you're running all these extra modifiers that you kind of don't need to. I'd say it's definitely indecent. I think it's probably bottom here, but I'm going to put Garchomp in front. I think Garchomp's up here, actually. Garchomp is, what might make sense to me, it probably is a stronger deck. I can't believe I put it in mediocre. It's definitely a good deck. Then we've got Dark Toxin, as I like to call it. It's Yveltal, and Garbodor. So you just put pressure on with X-Ball, or is Evo or something. Whichever one. You just get to hit a bunch of damage with Dark Energy. You get the X-Ball from the Mewtwo as an attack. Garbodor obviously shuts out abilities. You get to do more damage from the stadium. It's almost a worse version of Dark Tina, but it's a different way of playing it. I'd say it's pretty strong. I think it's about here-ish. You don't get to run the one prizes that this deck does, but you're still an aggressive max elixir deck. You still hit very hard, so it shuts out abilities. It's very good. This is YZG. Now, YZG is a deck that's very infamous in this format because it's a one prizer deck that can act like a non-one prizer. You get to run Seismitoad, Yveltal EX, Baby Yveltals, Zoroark for massive damage, Max's Hidden Ball Trick for Gallade to smooth your draws. It's a really powerful deck, extremely consistent, and you can have some of the most explosive early turns possible in the format. And you get to run Zoroark Break to copy really back-breaking attacks like Gaia Volcano if they haven't got enough energy. Things like the Emerald Break. Just really, really powerful attacks the opponent doesn't want you to get to run. I've copied Turbo Bolt before, and that's been insane. Just attach a bunch of Dark Energy versus Manectric. Ridiculous. It's definitely a strong deck. I would actually put it up here, to be honest. I think it's a deck that just really necessitates... It's a very, very lean deck. You don't really run anything that's not perfect in the deck. And I think it's amazing one deck to play. It does require quite a high skill ceiling. You need to know what you're doing with the deck, know what decisions you're going to make very in advance. It requires a lot of reps, I'd say. If you put the time in, then you'll definitely get results with it. And the last one is Carbink Zygarde, which would also be Zygarde with Vileplume. You just use a massively big basic and Carbink that stops attacks from EXs, and you get to have Diamond Gift from the break to attach a bunch of energy from the discard pile. And Zygarde's just a good attacker. It's fine. I think it's a worse Garchomp, but it's like better than one of the better wall decks. I think it's probably... it might even be mediocre. I think it's probably here. Maybe there. I think it's got enough legs to stand on, but it's not going to stand for long. So yeah, this is kind of what I'd say is the ratings on the tier list. Any comments of any other decks you would include in here, what your ranking might be with these decks as well, your reasoning for it, please like and subscribe, and yeah, peace out.